Brothers and sisters, there are many challenges when it comes to preserving institutional legacy. Whether it's a corporation, a small business, a religious or political organization, or a movement. Some of these challenges include, but are not limited to, resistance to change, lack of understanding of the new model, commitment to the group above the individual, adequate training and development, difficulty in shifting from one hierarchical structure to a more self-sufficient paradigm, and the potential risks that come with experimentation and innovation. As we move further into the succession planning process, Wazamiha Wakina, deep divers, it's important to understand how each individual person connects with the whole and what responsibility we each share to ensure the conservation and survival of our rich legacy well beyond our physical lifetimes. Perhaps there are a few lessons to be learned from a real family's succession experience. The legacy of the old mill. Ever heard of it? Well, it's a true story about the Martino family, whose quaint flour mill nestled in the heart of a small Italian town. This little flour mill had been a cornerstone of their community for generations. Under the steady hand of Nonna Maria, the mill thrived, its fragrant, freshly ground flour, a staple in every household. But as Nonna Maria aged, the weight of the family business and the question of succession began to loom large over her children, especially her eldest son, Marco. Marco was a man of logic and numbers, and he had always been drawn to the city life, dreaming of a big corporate career. Yet he felt a deep sense of responsibility to the flour mill and the legacy his mother had built. His younger sister, Sophia, had an artistic spirit and was more passionate about the mill's heritage, but she lacked the business acumen to lead it. And thus the tension between the two siblings grew as they grappled with the idea of taking over the mill, each carrying their own anxieties about the future. Those of us who have been invested in this freedom journey for 20, 30, 40, and some even 50 plus years can certainly relate to the feelings of anxiety and uncertainty about what the future holds for the legacy that we have created with our own hands, backs, feet, blood, sweat, and tears. What will it look like in the future? How will it survive the current trends and complexities of the times that we're living in now? And where do I fit in to this transitional time of intergenerational shifting? Who are these young folks who will inherit this stored and highly acclaimed legacy of Black excellence? Well, the good news is that what we do today and how we open our minds to embrace the new will certainly determine the answers to those questions and many, many others as well. I have fond memories of the early 70s when I first joined this church on the corner of 7625 Linwood and Hogarth here in Detroit. Many of the church founders and members, and especially the older members, had a difficult time keeping up with the explosive infusion of Black youth into the church and the rapid changes, the radical thinking, and the shifting energies that came along with us. In a span of just 2 short years, between 1970 and 1972, the church flipped from being family-centered and older adults to being college-age students and young people. While many resisted these new realities, some just didn't understand where we were headed, and so they began to drift away. Still others embraced the challenges and instinctively began to mentor and to teach and to train and to engage and indulge the changes with everything they had. I remember Brother and Sister Sykes, who ran our food co-op program out of the Black Theology Room every Saturday morning. The food co-op program was actually a byproduct of the Black Star Food Co-op Market, an economic arm of the Central United Church of Christ, which was opened in 1968 on Linwood, just a block away from the church. Brother and Sister Sykes worked with the student movement to provide 2 bags of groceries, including fresh fruits and vegetables, produce, eggs, milk, and many other food staples for only $5. We met at the shrine at 6 a.m. every Saturday and went down to the Eastern Market in the Sykes van to purchase food. Then we returned to the shrine to bag and prepare for our food distribution from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. Sometimes in the fall, we would drive down to Belleville, Michigan, where we had a little farm to help harvest those crops and bring them back to Detroit for the market. We called it Ujamakazi, communal work, while providing a vital service to our local community. But the Mother Shrine kept growing until we had 8 shrines and 14 college cadres. The changes kept coming, and before long, Rev had introduced our national expansion program to take Black Christian nationalism across the country in 1972. One thing I'm sure of, and another I know is true: time waits for no one, and everything, I mean everything, must change. For the Martino family, as big supermarkets began to dominate the local market, their small meal struggled to compete with mass-produced, cheaper flour. Marco proposed modernizing the meal, introducing new technology, but Sophia feared that it would compromise the traditional quality that made their flour special. The siblings' disagreements often spilled over into family dinners, causing friction with their parents. Nona Maria, despite her aging health, tried to bridge the gap, reminding them of the importance of unity and the legacy that they were entrusted with. The town's new mayor, eager to see the area develop, pushed for the mill to be redeveloped into a modern shopping center, tempting Marco with the prospect of a very lucrative deal. Often, the biggest challenges in legacy preservation is not about having the right people, resources, or values, but rather mindset. Having an open mindset that embraces rather than resists change. Life itself is a contiguous journey of change. Does anybody remember a huge movie rental store called Blockbuster? Blockbuster opened in Dallas, Texas back in 1985, and in less than 3 years spread across the nation. For those who are not old enough to remember a video cartridge format, that was how we watched our movies until all movie platforms became digital. Blockbuster was the most dominant video rental chain in America, but because of its unwillingness to change, by 2010, Blockbuster had to file for bankruptcy and is now a tourist attraction for the Dish Network. Somebody say change or die. Well, there's a backstory. In 2010, a young new upstart company called Netflix sought to sell their business to Blockbuster for $50 million. They offered this merger to partner with Blockbuster and work with them to move their company into the impending new reality. But that closed-minded leadership at Blockbuster prevented them from evolving to the next level, and so they ended up ensuring their own demise. How many of you know having an open mindset can take you much, much further than you could ever imagine? Marco, burdened by the expectation of leadership, found himself constantly second-guessing his decisions, afraid of disappointing his mother and the community. Sophia, while passionate, felt overshadowed by her brother's business-oriented approach. When Nona Maria fell seriously ill, the family rallied around her bedside, sharing stories of the meal's history and the impact it had on their lives. This brought a renewed sense of purpose to both siblings. They realized that the meal wasn't just a business, but it was a symbol of their family's resilience and their connection to the community. Marco and Sophia decided to work together, combining Marco's business skills with Sophia's creative vision. Before you knew it, they launched a marketing campaign highlighting the meal's unique heritage and quality, reaching out to local restaurants and artisan bakers. And before long, they introduced a brand new line of specialty flours, catering to a growing demand for high-quality ingredients. But they didn't stop there. They looked beyond the family and out into the community to find new opportunities for innovation and creativity. Some of their partners suggested that they host tours of the meal to educate the community about the importance of healthy food sources. By hosting these meal tours and workshops, they reconnected the community with the meal's history, fostering a renewed sense of pride in their local heritage. Anybody remember when we owned and operated and controlled most of the businesses in our own community? Everything from corner stores to gas stations to grocery stores, bakeries, butcher shops, cleaners, barber and beauty shops. Everything we needed was provided by us for us. If we did it before, surely we can do it again. But I digress. As Nona Maria recovered, she witnessed the renewed commitment of her children to the meal. Though challenges remained, the Martino family had found a way to adapt and thrive, ensuring that the legacy of the old meal would continue to be a cherished part of their town's story for generations to come. I share that story because it highlights the complex dynamics of family businesses where personal relationships, tradition, and the need for adaptation often collide, making the pursuit of sustainability a constant struggle. Well, institutions, churches, movements are no different when it comes to legacy preservation. It requires that we do all we can to think radically, to think outside the box, to maintain an open mindset, and to be willing to do our part to keep the tradition alive and to pass it on to future generations. Let me share just 3 simple things we can all do to be a part of the succession process today. Number 1, record your own story. Sharing your experiences, your lessons learned, your wisdom accumulated, and what the institution means to you. Number 2, be a part of a group, a committee, a team, a project that is engaged in the legacy preservation and succession planning process. You can participate either online or in person. Just go to your local pastor and ask, how can I get involved? Number 3, identify at least 2 young people, Gen X, Millennial, Gen Z. They don't have to be members of the church, that you would be willing to share your skills, training, and expertise with, and decide how you are going to go about doing that. If we all do our part, we will ensure that the rich historical legacy of the shrines of the Black Madonna of the Pan-African Orthodox Christian Church continues to help transform our communities into self-determined and self-actualized networks of self-empowered African people everywhere. Ashe and Amen.